Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sedona International Film Festival, where we're celebrating our 30th anniversary. I'm Carol Kahn, and we are coming to you live from Yavapai College in our media room. And I'd like to thank Yavapai College as one of our sponsors, along with our presenting sponsor, Northern Arizona Healthcare. And thank you to all the hoteliers, restaurateurs, and all of our volunteers who year after year support our festival. We are very grateful. And joining me now is Alex. And Alex, can you introduce your film?
Sure. The film is called Farewell Fire.
Farewell Fire. And tell us a little bit about the film.
It's a story that it's a really personal story to me. It came out of an experience I had back in 2020. My dad was diagnosed with a really rare neurodegenerative disease called Creutzfeldt-Jacobs disease, or CJD. It's a prion disease that basically pretty much very quickly destroys your brain in about the path of like 6 months or so. And it was just a spontaneous, protein in his brain folded the wrong way. And then that was pretty much it. So it was a really hard experience watching my dad. He's like, the strongest person I've ever really known. Like, I learned a lot about just, being a human being and being a man from him. And just watching him deteriorate through that was a really difficult thing for me personally. It, was probably the hardest thing I've been through in my life. But through that, I felt like there was this clarity about, like, there's a sense of clarity and growth that came from that experience, and like being there with my mom and my brother and sister, and I felt like I grew in a really meaningful and deep way that it was hard to put into words, and I was kind of thinking about that. It was also during 2020, so we were in lockdown. I couldn't actually be there. It was like all kind of remote over FaceTime, and just a very hard time personally. But through that, I felt like there was something that I learned that I wanted to try to explore and maybe share with people who had gone through similar loss and dealing with grief. And I grew up camping with my dad, and I really love nature and the outdoors. I'm from Washington State originally, so we grew up in like the old Gruth like forests and Olympic National Park and the Olympic Mountains. So that was really important, and like a big part of my bond with my dad was like camping and outdoor stuff. So I wanted to tell a story about a father and a son kind of coming to terms with saying goodbye, and sort of set it in a place that felt like it was representative of my relationship with my dad. So we had originally looked at filming it up in Washington State, in the Olympic National Forest, which is where like we spent a lot of time camping and doing stuff in the outdoors. But because I live in California now, just logistically, it didn't really work out. We were going to try to shoot in the springtime in Washington when it's just rainy all the time. So we ended up looking around in California, and we decided on Big Sur, because I think Big Sur is like a place that has a really similar, one of the most beautiful places I've been. It has a really similar feel to the Olympic National Forest and like where I grew up. And we were fortunate enough to like get in contact with a guy named Mark Lay with the Ventana Big Sur, who was like, oh, this story sounds really beautiful. We'd love to help you. And they hooked us up with a campsite and gave us kind of free run of their campground. It was pretty cool. It was great.
You went straight to the top.
Yes. Well, and then we had to get permits we got permits to actually shoot in Pfeiffer Burns State Park, which was a whole process. But the final scene of the movie, the sunrise scene, was like shot on I think it's a Lookout Trail in Big Sur State Park, and it was worth it. All the work of getting those permits and talking to rangers and stuff. Like, I really think it really made that scene sing. So I'm glad we did all that.
So we do have a clip of the film, so let's take a look at that, and then we'll talk some more.
Yeah.
How long has it been since we walked these woods? Under the shadows of giants? Do they feel our presence? Do they remember?
God, how long was that? 10 seconds?
Yeah. Pretty short.
Well, it doesn't matter. It got to me.
I guess it worked then.
Yeah, it's worth it. I know. It just got to me. Oh, my gosh. So, in going through this and telling this is basically your story, right? And coming out doing that. I mean, I almost feel like we never really say goodbye.
Yeah.
I mean, did you find that, or is that something that?
No, I think that's true. That was kind of something that I wanted with the film is like, it was a way to say goodbye, but it also is, in the end of the film, I mean, that is the last line of the film is, "See you around, Dad." And he's like watching the sunrise over the hills, like in a place where his father had watched the sunrise like before he had had kids. And that's kind of part of the idea is like it's part of what I want to explore is we do say goodbye to people and they leave our lives, but they also don't because they're part of us, especially our parents. Like there's so much of my dad in me as a person, and like as long as I can carry that along with me and like take the best parts of him, and like maybe someday I have a family of my own. I'm not really sure about that, but if that's the case, I would love to be able to sort of pass that on. And this kind of idea of like the passing of the torch from one generation to the next, and like how the human story just continues on, that felt like a really important thing to me to explore in this film, because I feel like that's really one of the ways like we deal with the grief of like saying goodbye and letting go of people that we love, is like realizing that they're always going to be part of us, and like we can take the best parts of them and kind of bring them forward into the future.
Yeah. How did you get through shooting the film? I mean, knowing the story behind it and like living it, like how did you actually get through it?
I mean, it was definitely a challenging experience, but like I had an awesome team. As soon as I had like started working on the script, I came to my best friend Connor, who is a very talented director, and we co-direct a lot of stuff and like co-produce. So we've just been working together since film school, and I brought him the script and I was like, hey, I want to make this, it's a really personal story. Like he knew my dad pretty well as well, so I was like, I want to make this story about my dad. Like, do you want to co-direct it with me? And he was like, yeah, let's do it. And we actually did it like in tandem with another short film. So we had like a 4-day shooting block and then like a day off and then another 4-day shooting block up in Big Sur. And I had my girlfriend Phoebe, who was our production designer, and she was like, my friend Chad, like they were all there to support me, and like they all were really good about taking time to kind of just step aside, like, doing okay, buddy?
Good.
But it was like a really, as much as it was very emotional, it was really cathartic, and I felt like I just felt really grateful to like be able to tell something that really meant a lot. Like I think as a filmmaker, that's really what you're always like striving for, is like to tell a story that really means something in your heart. And this one just had so much meaning. I honestly like was really relished the time that we spent on set. Like it was really a beautiful experience. It was hard.
Right.
I mean, we drove up to Big Sur, drove up in the morning, did 7 hours of driving, and then, immediately shot for like 6 hours, and then shot the climax of the whole movie that night at sunset, and then had to camp, and, 12-hour days all around. Like it was a grueling process, but I was also just like really inspired to make this the best I could. So,
Well, I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
And tell me, when is the film being shown?
It's going to be shown today. It's part of Short Film Block 5. It's going to be shown today at 1 p.m. at the Harkins Theater, and then also on March 2nd at 7 p.m. at the Harkins Theater.
Okay, awesome. And then how can people find out about your film?
Probably the easiest way would be go to Instagram and find the account. It's Farewell Fire Film. That also has links to, we have a little website for it, and we've got some other social media pages, but Farewell Fire Film on Instagram is probably the easiest way to find those.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being part of our festival. Thank you for bringing your film, and I can't wait to hear audience reactions to it as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. This is just an awesome festival, and I'm really grateful to be part of it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook Live throughout the day, where we're bringing you lots of interviews with filmmakers. And if you're out there and about and taking photos and on social media, don't forget to hashtag SIFF30. And we'll be back with more filmmaker interviews.